Welcome y'all to Robin on the Farm. I absolutely love sharing my recipes with y'all, but what I love even more is when y'all share your recipes with me. That is so cool. That is what today's recipe is. This is a cream cheese pumpkin bread. And this recipe was shared with me by Robin in Arizona. She spells her name with an I. She told me that she has been making this cream cheese pumpkin bread for more than 30 years, which is really cool to me. So this is definitely a tried and true recipe. I've made it several times. It is definitely good enough to share with y'all. It is so good. It's creamy, it's smooth, it's moist. It's just a really good pumpkin bread recipe. And I love that she's been making it for so many years. I printed off the recipe that she sent me. This is from a Philadelphia brand cream cheese cookbook. And I'm sure she's had that cookbook for more than 30 years. She told me that this recipe makes 2 large loaves or 6 mini loaves. Or like I'm gonna do today, I'm gonna make 1 large loaf and 3 mini loaves because it is Christmas time and I'm gonna give some of these away. So you can definitely half the recipe if you don't want that much bread, or just make a bunch. It freezes really well. I've already frozen a few loaves just to see, and it freezes great. So you can throw it in the freezer, get it out and eat it or give it away. So let's just get started on this really good recipe. I'm gonna start with 2½ cups of sugar. So I'm gonna use my KitchenAid mixer today, but you can definitely just whip this up by hand if you want to, if you have some hand beaters or something like that, but the KitchenAid just makes it easy. So 2½ cups of plain white sugar. Now I'm gonna use 1 block of cream cheese. So this is an 8-ounce block of cream cheese, and I have let it soften. I've had it out for about an hour on the countertop to let it soften up a little bit. It got pretty soft. I had it near my oven and my oven's been going. So I'm gonna put this right on into my KitchenAid mixer. And next we're gonna use 1/2 cup of butter. So 1 stick of butter. The recipe actually calls for margarine. So this cookbook is from back when margarine was real popular. Does anybody use margarine anymore? I don't know. I've only ever used butter. So 1 stick of softened butter. You don't really want it melted, just softened will do the trick. Now that we have the cream cheese and the sugar and the butter in the mixer, I'm gonna let it cream just for a minute. I turned this to speed 1. I let it cream for about 30 seconds and it's already looking great. Probably because my cream cheese and my butter was so soft. Didn't take hardly anything to get it to cream together. Now I'm gonna add the eggs. I'm gonna go ahead and add all 4 eggs at one time. The recipe actually does say 1 at a time and let it incorporate, but I'm gonna add all 4 at one time. Okay, my eggs have mixed in very well. So now I'm gonna add the pumpkin. I absolutely love baking with pumpkin. I love the taste of it. I love storing this in my food storage. This is just such a good, healthy treat to use when you're baking. So I'm gonna add 1 whole can of this pumpkin. This is a 15-ounce can of pumpkin. This is 100% pure pumpkin, not the kind that you would make a pumpkin pie with, like the easy pumpkin pie that already is mixed together with lots of stuff. This is just pure pumpkin puree. Okay, now that I've gotten all this pumpkin out of the can, I'm gonna go ahead and let this mix around again, and then we're gonna add our dry ingredients. Now it's time to add our dry ingredients. And I'm just gonna add the dry ingredients right on top of the wet ingredients and then mix those all together. That'll just cut down on some dishes. So I'm gonna add 2½ cups of all-purpose flour. Don't need your bread flour or anything like that. Just 2½ cups of all-purpose flour. Just put it right into your mixing bowl. Actually, I was wrong about that. You want 3½ cups. I read the recipe wrong. So 3½ cups right into your mixing bowl. Next, we want 2 teaspoons of baking soda. Not baking powder, baking soda, 2 teaspoons. Let's throw that right on top of your flour. Smells good. Now I want 1 teaspoon of salt. This is my North American ancient fine sea salt. You can use regular old white table salt, but definitely pour it over something other than your mixing bowl because you might put too much salt in. So 1 teaspoon of salt right on in there. And our next ingredient is cinnamon. We want 1 teaspoon of cinnamon in this pumpkin bread. So add 1 teaspoon of cinnamon right on top of all those other ingredients. And next we need some baking powder. So we want 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. This is a quick bread, so our baking soda and our baking powder are gonna be the leavening agents, and that is gonna be what helps our pumpkin bread to rise as it's baking in the oven. And next we want 1/4 teaspoon of these ground cloves. Oh, those smell so good. So 1/4 teaspoon right on in there. Okay, these are all of our dry ingredients. Now I'm just gonna simply mix the dry ingredients with the wet ingredients. I just turned this on to speed 1. You definitely don't want to overmix your quick bread batters because it can give you kind of a tough quick bread. So you definitely don't want to do that. This should only take about 30 seconds to combine your ingredients really well. And mine look great. This batter smells so good. It smells like cinnamon and cloves, and that cream cheese makes it so creamy and moist and delicious. This is so good. Check out this batter. Look how fluffy and gorgeous this is. It is so fluffy and it smells so good. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna do. Since I'm gonna give these as gifts, I know that one of the families I'm gonna give this to has little kids. And I know my little kids didn't like nuts in their pumpkin bread when they were little. So I'm gonna go ahead and make one just totally free of any mix-ins. So I'm gonna make a mini loaf and I'm just gonna fill it up about 2/3 of the way full. This recipe really calls for a cup of walnuts. So I'm gonna add some walnuts. These are chopped walnuts. And I'm also gonna add some chocolate chips because I think that the other families that are getting these are gonna like the walnuts and the chocolate chips. So that is the great thing about making pumpkin bread. You can add raisins, walnuts, pecans, chocolate chips, craisins are even good, dried cranberries. You can add anything you want. So it's kind of fun to make it differently. Oh my goodness, this looks so good. I think these chocolate chips are really gonna elevate this pumpkin bread even more than without it. But I think it'd be good, even totally plain, if you don't wanna add anything at all. Now I sprayed these little mini muffin pans really well. I sprayed them just with some olive oil spray. But for my big loaf pan, instead of spraying this and trying to get out this pumpkin bread when it's done, I have these awesome loaf pan liners. So I just stick that right in there and then it just turns right on out, no problem at all. So I love these loaf pan liners. I definitely recommend them. So now I'm gonna fill up the rest of my batter into this loaf pan. And then it's gonna be ready to throw into the oven. So I'm gonna let these bake at 350 degrees. I'm gonna let this big one go for an hour and I'm gonna let these little ones go for about 40 minutes. Then I'm gonna do the toothpick test and just make sure that they're ready. But I have my oven all preheated. As you start your pumpkin bread, make sure you get your oven preheated because this is so quick to put together that you're gonna be waiting on your oven if you forget to turn it on. Okay, so I have all of our batter into the loaves and I'm gonna just throw them into the oven. So I'll show them to you when they're ready. Okay, y'all, our cream cheese pumpkin bread is fresh out of the oven. Look how good it looks. You can't smell it, but it smells so good. I wish you could smell it. I wish you could taste it. Oh, so good. Okay, so I got our mini loaves out at 40 minutes. They look fantastic. They look so good. They came out of the little loaf pan so easily. Now it's time to get this one out. This one has the liner. Let's see, there it goes. Oh, so great. I don't want to touch this loaf pan because it's really hot. Okay, so it came out great. Look at that. I love these loaf pan liners. They really help. So I'm gonna go ahead and peel it off. Ah, yep. This peels off really nicely, really easily, or you could leave it on there if you're gonna give it to somebody, but there it is. There is our gorgeous little loaf of bread. Now this bigger one did get a little bit darker than the smaller ones. It had to go a little bit longer just to get totally done on the inside, but look how great they all look. These turned out fantastic. So I'm really pleased with these. I'm gonna give this one away, I'm gonna give this one away, and one of these little ones, but I'm gonna go ahead and cut into this one right here to give it a little taste. When I was a little girl, we had a family friend, Connie Berge, and every Christmas, she and her husband would bring us a loaf of pumpkin bread. And I have such good memories of that when I was a little girl. I always looked forward to it. It was one of my Christmas traditions. So don't underestimate the power of giving away these gifts for your neighbors and for other people in your life. I think that they really do appreciate it because I know that I have really good memories of that. Okay, so look how good this looks. This is one that has walnuts and chocolate chips. I probably could have added more chocolate chips, but this is perfect. Okay, I'm gonna take a little bite. It's so good. Before Robin shared this recipe with me, I had never thought to put cream cheese in my pumpkin bread. I don't know why. I've done it in my banana breads, but never my pumpkin breads. And I think it just makes it smoother, creamier, fluffier, and I think it just goes great with this pumpkin bread. I love the addition of the walnuts and the chocolate chips, but I think it tastes great plain too. You don't even have to put any additional mix-ins in here. Thank you so much, Robin, for sharing this recipe with me. I appreciate it. I'm gonna give some of this bread away as neighbor gifts, and they're gonna love it. I will put the recipe that Robin shared with me down in the description. There'll be a link and you can click on it and print it, but this recipe did originally come from a Philadelphia Cream Cheese Cookbook. If y'all have any recipes that you think I'd like, I would love to try them out. Send them to me in an email. I'll put my email down in the description. But thank you so much for being here with me on Robin on the Farm. I hope you enjoy this bread and all the other yeast breads and recipes I've been sharing with y'all. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.
Robin's in the kitchen, dough beneath her hands, wheat from the fields and eggs from her land. Sunlight through the window, a warm golden glow. She's working hard to make that dough.